As oxygen likely dwindles aboard the vessel, assuming it's still intact, search and rescue operations continue to be scaled up, including the arrival of remotely operated vehicles that are now searching the ocean floor, while sonar buoys have been deployed in the water to listen for any sounds that could point to the Titan's location.
It's quite difficult to say from apart and not being on the scene of the action. Or what I have read is that the oxygen in the pressure hull will last for about 96 hours, and that's approximately now about to running out of time. Yet there is still hope, and as long as there is hope, I believe that all the forces on the scene will do the utmost to save the people inside the pressure hull.
The US Coast Guard says underwater search vehicles deployed have found a debris field near the wreckage of the Titanic, which could be a key breakthrough, while a French research ship that has provided a robotic diving craft that can reach depths even below where the Titanic wreckage lies, almost 4 kilometers below the surface, continues to scan the search area that has doubled over the course of 5 days.
It's not a very good sign if you now double the search area. That means that within the original search area, you have not found anything which is a positive sign of identification of this vehicle. So I would assume that's not a good sign if you double the search area, but it doesn't say that it's impossible to finally find the vehicle. The question would be still, is the pressure hull still intact? If it's not intact, I have no hope, no huge hope that people are still alive then. If it is intact, then the question is again, is the oxygen there for the people to survive inside the vehicle?
While air, ship and underwater surveillance continues, a special US Navy-owned salvage system designed to lift large undersea objects is also being deployed.
Problem is, where is the equipment now and how long does it take to get it there? And once you have identified, positively identified the vehicle, you have to try to recover it and get it to the surface. So if it is deep down, you will have to have another vehicle, a remote operated vehicle or anything like this to go down there, attach a wire to the vehicle and trying to get it up to the surface, which again is not that easy like it sounds. It has a certain weight, it is down to a certain depth, and all this has to be taken into consideration. And again, time is running out.
As questions continue around the submersible certification process and whether safety protocols were followed. Reports suggest that standard safety procedures were followed before Titan set off on this voyage, but concerns over whether it met industry safety standards and certification is now a matter for much debate. A letter from industry peer review group, the Marine Technology Society, in March 2018, expressed its apprehension that the current experimental approach adopted by OceanGate could result in negative outcomes from minor to catastrophic, as the odds of finding the 5 people on board alive increasingly appears slim as each second, each minute ticks by. Sherwin Bryce Pease, SABC News, New York.
And Sherwin is standing by to give us the very latest now. Sherwin, it's a very, worrying story. We're actually talking about it just a little earlier on. Just, time is ticking and the wait must be excruciating for the families. What does the discovery of this debris field now mean?
Yeah, a worrying story, Bongi, where that might have a somber ending, right? There have been 2 major developments since the international multinational search effort got underway on Sunday. It's been 5 days of intensive searching from the air, from the sea and under the sea. And there have been 2 developments. First, the banging noises that were picked up by a Canadian surveillance aircraft late Tuesday, early morning Wednesday, which gave some hope that maybe, these trapped passengers aboard the Titan were banging on the hull as to communicate their location. That, of course, yielded no results. And we are now hearing from the US Coast Guard. They tweeted just about an hour ago, and I'm going to read you that tweet. A debris field was discovered within the search area by a remotely operated vehicle near the Titanic wreckage. experts within the Unified Command are evaluating the information. So they're not confirming that they've found debris from the Titan, but the speculation certainly would be that that debris field speaks to a vessel that possibly imploded, bringing these search and rescue efforts to naught. But of course, Bongiwe, we are speculating at this point. Yeah. The US Coast Guard and that Joint Command Center has not confirmed that this is debris from the Titan. They are expected to hold a press briefing at around 3 p.m. Eastern time, which is around 9 p.m. Central African time, when more details are likely to be revealed.
And I suppose more details as well showing on what kind of operation is unfolding now, especially when you look at the fact that they were still hoping to hear the noises. But as you say, a lot of hope is now beginning to diminish. But of course, some not ruling out the possibility of a miracle. But at the same time, even as you ended off your piece there are still some serious questions that are being raised around the safety of this particular vessel, whether or not this experiment was always going to, hold and continue to be safe, or, as others have defended it, to say everything was above board.
In addition to the debris field, Bongiwe, this is a vessel that would by now have run out of the oxygen supply that was available to it. The 96 hours we have so widely spoken about when this vessel began its deep dive to the wreckage of the Titanic, that oxygen supply is very likely depleted. So if you still haven't found the Titan vessel, the idea would be that oxygen levels have now been depleted and you probably have 5 corpses aboard the Titan, if of course it is still if it has not imploded. And you correctly point out that among the safety issues that are being talked about is a letter that was written by the Marine Technology Society. Essentially, this is a peer review group to the CEO of OceanGate in March of 2018. I'm just going to read you one paragraph from that letter. Quote, "Our apprehension is that the current experimental approach adopted by OceanGate could result in negative outcomes, from minor to catastrophic. That would have serious consequences for everyone in the industry." And I think you're going to hear more from them in the days ahead as the operation moves possibly now from search and rescue to a recovery operation. And of course, the investigations that will now follow that to determine what exactly happened here. Was this an infrastructure problem? Was this, too much innovation? We hear they talk about some of the materials used to build this vessel, carbon fiber, which isn't a material that you normally associate with these deep submersible vessels. Remember, Bongiwe, they go to the depths of the ocean. The ocean floor in this area is around 4 kilometers down. So just imagine the pressure that would have been on this very tiny 6.5 meter vessel with 5 adult males on board 5 days into the search. One can just begin to imagine the trauma that must have been experienced on that vessel, say, if they were stuck on board for a number of days. We, of course, don't know if and when this vessel might have imploded, but we will certainly hear from the Coast Guard when they speak to the media at around 3 p.m. our time, 9 p.m. Central African time.
And certainly when you're looking at it, you definitely cannot be claustrophobic, Sherwin. But finally, then, very briefly, let's talk about the families. Is there anything we're hearing in that regard?
Yeah, they've been pretty tight-lipped, but we have heard from the family of the British billionaire Hamish Harding, who, of course, is among the 5 people on board, lashing out at OceanGate, saying, criticizing the delays in terms of them notifying authorities that the Titan vessel had disappeared. We're told it took them some 8 hours to alert authorities. So that lag in terms of getting the search and rescue operation underway is certainly going to be, I think, a focus of the investigation. Initially, they were very sort of complimentary of the search and rescue teams, but as the days wore on and the fatigue and the anxiety one imagines of family members waiting for some good news, perhaps a miracle, that hope now fading and the criticisms being elevated as one imagines calls for investigations, which will be sort of a fait accompli here. That will happen. And then, of course, the litigation that surrounds that. Will they be sued? How many millions are we talking about here? Certainly will be revealed in the months and certainly the weeks ahead.
Sure, Sherwin, it's really one of those heartbreaking stories. And, I'm sure the families, as you say, hoping for a miracle. A lot of people watching this one to see if indeed a miracle will, materialize here. Because certainly, as you say, time is running out. Thank you so much for that update. Sherwin Bryce Pease, our SABC News correspondent, of course, giving us, the very latest in this very disturbing and somber story.